Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Overbite Gaming review, and today we are reviewing Until Dawn. Until Dawn is a Quantum Dream-esque game, I would say, done by Supermassive Games.
Mm-hmm.
Can they out-Quantic Quantic Dreamer?
Wow, that's a good tagline. Can you out-Quantic Quantic Dream?
I just got with gold, it's just gold all the time.
Yeah, you're a bit of a one-trick pony.
What?
Until Dawn is a fantastic game. I'll say that straight off the bat. I absolutely adore this game.
Yes, I had tons of fun with it. I love Quantic Dream games, and this is Quantic Dream that's sort of a slasher type dealie as well, so that's like so far up my alley it could see my tonsils.
Until Dawn, for me, it ticks all the right boxes. It's basically, like you say, it's kind of like a slashery kind of jump scare horror story thing based around a bunch of teenagers, which sounds really lame, doesn't it, when you say it like that?
Especially when you think that I don't think any of them actually are teenagers.
Yeah, they're probably in their 40s or something. But it stars a few people you would have seen off the screen. Not to give too much away in the story-wise things, because that really is one of its big selling points, is going through that story and making choices.
Yes.
And a lot of games in the past have been illusions of choice. Things like Walking Dead, the sort of animated episodic game from Telltale Games, which we both adore.
Yes, absolutely.
But those games give you an illusion of choice because it does bring you sort of back around to a final thing. Now, let's face it, all games have to have a script and a way of showing an ending.
Yeah, there's an arc that has to go on from beginning to end, and it's just sometimes they just sort of have a little.
You can go that way or that way, and it's
yeah, it still comes back.
But this feels like the choices you make, they have a direct impact and do change the outcome of what you're either left with or a choice you might get to make later on. We've both played the game slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's 8 people to start with, you can literally end up with almost no one or everyone. It can really change of all the events that are going on, the choices you make. So for example, one person in the game called Emily, I disliked straight away because she's a bitch. I took my chance to end her life fairly far along the game, but it was a satisfying death. Whereas Lee kept her alive.
I did, because she's so gorgeous. I don't care if she's a bitch. She's gorgeous. She yes, fine.
She deserved it. But the deaths are. Let's just point this out. The deaths are really gory.
They are, yeah.
Like proper gory. There's nothing kind of held back.
No, it's kind of looking at the contents of my plate before I cook it on a Saturday night level of gore.
And there's a really nice mechanic, maybe a third of the way into the game, where it starts to ask you lots of questions about what things scare you, what things don't scare you.
Well, that actually starts a lot earlier. Basically, you play the prologue and then you immediately go into this psychiatrist's office with the mystery character.
Yeah.
And he asks you a number of things. He would look at pictures, he'd look at Rorschach, stuff like that. And they use that to slowly introduce the things that you tell it you're afraid of into the story.
So you get a more enlightening experience of the game, which is really welcome. I mean, that kind of thought process going into, making you able to mould the game into something you want to do, and actually be, not just have jump scares, but have jump scares and creepy bits that make you feel uncomfortable. It's just, it's brilliant that the game can mould itself to you like that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it does have a few bits where you're like, well, I'm not scared of rats or knives. So, knives?
Yeah, it is a little bit like that, but it does, like I said, it moulds into the gameplay, so you can see those choices come up later on in the game. So, for example, I won't go into the story bit because that's going to ruin it for you. The main villain of the piece, that doesn't say too much, does it? The main villain of the piece looks a certain way, acts a certain way based on those choices that you've done in that psychiatrist office. So, I mean, I was immature enough when it introduces that character called the Analyst. It has the word anal in it. I sniggered.
Sorry.
So every time I came back to that particular scene, which you do visit quite often, it was like time for a bit of analism or analyst, and it was sorry, it's just me being immature. Going on to the type of game that you actually have to play, you can get through the whole thing in about 7 hours.
Yeah. I think we both did it in about 7 hours.
Yeah, I'm not going to... I'm going to be publicising myself again.
Here we go. Twitch TV down here.
I did the entire playthrough, I think it was yesterday, from start to finish on stream, and it was an attractive stream to people because it's like watching a film. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much control you're doing. It's quick time events, there is moving around, and there's actions. And so you are walking around into a particular place, investigating a clue. Very LA Noir-ish, I've noticed.
Yep, you do sort of twiddle it
When you pick up something, you get that feeling of like looking at something. It's very, very weird. It's been done before with LA Noir, as I said, but it works. You know, you're picking up clues, you're having a look at stuff, so I'll give it that. But there isn't many kind of controls to get to grips with. Parts where you're asked to use the motion control to not move, which I think you fucked up a few times.
Well, yeah, I did. There was like 3 of them in a row, and I did the first 2, and I assumed that was the last one. So I put the controller in my lap to watch what was going on, and then all of a sudden it sprung another one. So I grabbed the controller, lifted it up, and it was like, "You fucked that up." I was like, oh.
But those bits are really tense, and the characters are so engrossing. You might not like them. I mean, I hated most of them.
I liked most of them.
I really didn't like most of them, so I wanted them to die. But you get to certain points where it's like it literally has the words "don't move" and the motion controller, it has to stay still. And being this, like, I think this is an exclusive to PlayStation.
It is, yeah.
And a good one. I mean, if you don't have a PS4, it might be the kind of game that makes you want to buy it. But when you have to just not move, like do the actual thing that the character's doing in the game, that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's certainly, this is the best instance of motion control I've seen, certainly on the PS4.
What, by not moving?
By not moving.
The quick time events are very interesting as well, because the quick time events, there are times when not doing anything is the right thing to do, or a choice.
And it's flashing buttons up for your eyes, and your first instinct is woo.
Yep, absolutely. For the first half of the game, I couldn't resist.
I don't think your killing of Emily was delayed.
It was. I kept on saving her by accident. How can you do that in a game? I was saving her by accident. Yeah, there's certain things to pick up as you go along as well, that give you little insights into the future, little totems they're called.
Yep.
Pieces of a totem pole, basically. I'm not quite sure the tenuous link from totem poles to the actual game setting. It does have a sign somewhere in the game explaining them.
No, there is a reason, but to tell you the reason would be to ruin a major element of the game.
Yeah, but you pick up these totems, and basically your kind of camera goes inside the totem, and you see a little flash of the future, and it could be danger, fortune. I can't remember the other ones. There's like
Death.
5 of them. Death, yeah, loss, something like that, and they kind of all mean things. But they're a nice touch to kind of give you a glimpse of something coming up and give you an idea. They don't give you too much information, which is nice, but it's a nice kind of thing to find in a collectible in the game.
Yeah, it's like a 2-second video most of the time, just enough for you to sort of okay. I mean, there's one early on, so it's not spoiling anything, where you have the option of throwing a snowball at a bird, and there's a totem that shows you not doing it. So you can still do it, but the totem advises you it's probably a better idea not to.
But it is when you have 2 kinds of big decisions to make in the games. So you get to those forks in the road where it kind of says, tell somebody something, or don't tell them. Those kind of things are kind of in conversation, and it can have an impact later on. For example, very early on in the game, you get the chance to snoop on someone's phone, or leave it and go and get them. So if you're snooping, you might get caught. If you go and get them, you won't see what's on the phone, that kind of thing, and that trust thing will then develop or get affected between those 2 people.
Yeah, that's kind of a failing of the game, at least from what I saw, because you're going around building up relationships between your characters, and you'll have a meter. So like when you pause, when you're playing a specific character, you have a meter with all the other people on it, and it shows you how well you like them, and they like you, and all that junk. But as far as I can tell, it didn't really make any fucking difference to how much they liked you or not.
Yeah, I couldn't. Well, I've only played it once through, so I can't tell any differences. I think that's not probably used enough, that element, because I saw that when I paused the game once or twice, but I never actually actively looked at it. it never became something I wanted to go and check as I was playing. I was too engrossed in the story.
Yeah, but I mean, you would take certain actions and it would tell you, Chris dislikes this, or he trusts you less, or something like that.
Very telltale.
Yeah, if you snooped on his phone, basically. It never really does anything with it. I mean, you can sort of fuck up the characters' relationships by choosing certain actions. I mean, it can result in your death because you pissed another character off, or something like that. But it never seems to be tied into these bars that you're looking at.
And I think it's a really nice mechanic that it doesn't make you play as one person.
No.
I mean, things like Heavy Rain, which we are going to obviously compare this to,
Yeah.
those kind of choices, because you were playing lots of different characters, it makes you think about the story and not just act as one character. I think it's a really good mechanic for telling the story, because you get to play different perspectives, and you're playing those characters for the story, not making the story play for you. I don't know if I'm making sense, but...
Well, certainly if you only played as one character, I would have stuck with Emily all game.
Then you would have died.
No, I survived. She survived my game.
So, for example, obviously people are going to be dying in this game. It's a slasher horror type thing. You have to keep them alive. On the back of the box it says, only your choices determine who will survive. And that is very true. It's an accurate tagline.
Yeah.
But from my experience, I ended up with only 2 people being alive out of the 8.
Yeah, I had 3. You can save them all, or you can kill them all. They are... That is options that can happen.
But your emotions will come through. You'll be like, I don't like this person. They are going to die.
I never felt that way through.
Oh, I did. Emily.
Yeah, I recognise that Emily is a complete bitch, but she's just so damn cute. I didn't care.
To be honest, they're all a bunch of knobs. If you really look under the skin.
Not really. I would.
They're
say,
a big bag of titties.
I would highly argue that. I would say. You have one character who starts off being a knob, but in the end...
carries on.
In the end, he was one of my favourite characters outside of Emily, and that's because he was a bloke, I suppose. You had like the nice girl. There's a nice girl character, and I don't really see any reason to hate her.
Well, I think they're all kind of flawed in some way. Something's not going right for them, or they're not. In terms of character progression, there is enough character progression to make you sort of put them in silos in your brain. So it's like bitch, active person, caring person, that kind of... I'm not going to give you too many things to give you a guide, but you get to learn how these characters would actually act, and you get those choices that could either go against or go with them, and it does sort of stick out. One thing I did notice as a bad point of this game, very, very small bad point, an event happened at some point in the game, and it was a very traumatic thing, and then they meet their other friends and they're all kind of upset, and there's lots of emotion and people crying, and then within it must have been about 15 to 20 seconds, they seemed absolutely fine. It was like a different take was being recorded, and they forgot to be unhappy, and they just came back to normal. So that took me out a little bit, but it didn't ruin it, because it was like then immediately something else is happening and things crack on.
Yeah.
But it's just a small point of mine I noticed, and it's really nothing to write home about, but it's just what I was thinking of it.
Yeah, I'd wonder whether it was intentional that you could pigeonhole those characters so easily, because there is somewhat of a trope in a horror movie, certainly in a slasher movie, that you would have the promiscuous girl, the jock,
Yeah, they've got all those.
Yeah, so we had, you have all those. But I mean, the characters themselves were so well written, I liked them all, and even the ones that perhaps you didn't like as much, you at least sort of felt like you knew these people, and you knew how they would respond to certain situations.
And let's not forget the actual visuals.
Yeah.
The faces and the mocap they've done, however they've done it, they've done a stunning job on it. There are parts where you forget that it's actually a computer-generated image on the PS4.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a few things I would say. They have been... It's almost like their fashion covers rather than people, because I'm familiar with like how these people look in real life, because I've looked them up, and they look like they've been sort of like photoshopped a little bit to be. It's kind of like the Photoshop versions of the real people. They do occasionally have the uncanny valley thing. There's a character called Mike, and sometimes when he smiles, he looks a bit strange, I think is the best way to put
Yeah.
it. Although the graphics are fantastic, this does have a consequence because it is on an underpowered piece of shit console.
Shut up, please.
And
No.
that is the frame rate can tank on it.
Never had a problem.
He's probably used to like 22.
You've just got your eyes tuned.
It doesn't
It's always your thing.
it doesn't affect how the game plays, but it does affect the lip syncing.
Well-
The lip syncing on this game, because I'm sure like when it was all programmed and recorded, it was fine. But like with the PS4 trying to run it, when it's such graphic fidelity, it can't do it. So the frame rate is lower, and which means the lip syncing isn't always there.
If you're a console user and you're not determined to get a massive number in 3 digits for your frame rate, you're not going to notice.
The lip syncing is well out a lot of the time.
I think it's because it's that uncanny valley thing that the faces and the quality is so high that you're not used to. You're used to a cartoony face almost being moved around. But for me, it's just a massive leap, and I don't know where they came from. This company hasn't really done much before this game.
No, it hasn't. Seriously, this is like its first real big game.
So keep an eye on Supermassive Games. They are someone to be thinking about in the future. They could be, as you said, out Quantic Dream.
Yes. I mean, you've got to wonder how they got the budget to do what they've done with this game, looking at their track record.
Mm.
Because, damn.
They are good. They're good. I'd even expect that some of the developers are from, maybe old developers from Quantic Dream or
I didn't see
Rockstar
any
or
French
something.
names in the title.
But yeah, the graphical fidelity of the faces is fantastic. The acting and the writing, some of it is cliched where it's meant to be.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. There
it's
are some
very-
lines you
yeah.
can predict.
It is ape in the slasher movie to some extent, and
Yeah.
it's putting those cliches in, like the jump scares. It has jump scares.
Yeah.
It has jump scares. They sort of peter out towards the middle of the game, I would say.
There are some that will make you shit your pants, I swear you.
But it's not using the jump scares because
I didn't actually shit my pants though. Just putting that out to the bloody
well, you
people.
weren't in PE, were you?
No.
It's not using jump scares for the sake of using jump scares. It's lampooning the use of jump scares. Like there's a bit where you're looking for a telescope and all of a sudden one of the characters goes in the other end and goes, "Ah!" for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And it's just doing that because it's going, yeah, this is an effective way of scaring people.
But it times it perfectly
It
because
does.
the art of a jump scare isn't to just jump scare. It's like make you feel it's going to come, it doesn't happen, goes quiet, and then it gets you when you least expect it. And it does it perfectly. It knows when to do the jump scare.
I think it does more than that because in movies, the new Nightmare on Elm Street is a perfect example of this. You know when the jump scare is coming because the music stops.
Mm.
And in this, I never sort of got that obvious bit where the music stopped. Okay, a jump scare is running up. It just happened.
Yeah. I've got. I mean, as a recommendation, this is a game that you should buy. It's hands down the most enjoyable game I've played this year. There's been a lot of games this year.
Yeah, it's tight. I think that there's a few games that would rival it, but I would certainly say it's probably the game I've had the most fun with on the PS4.
Squish it into a little box. But this game, the fact that it's only 7 hours long, and I'll say only because when you can play a game for 7 hours and have so much difference each time you play it,
Yeah.
that's where the replayability comes back in. That's where this game wins. So you could play this for 7 hours and get a certain result. You could play it for another 7 hours and get a totally different result. And I think if you are streaming it or playing it with friends or anything like that, it's the game that people can watch you play and not feel out of it. It's going to keep you included.
Yeah, it's one of those games that it's fun to watch people play as well as play yourself. And before we start wrapping up, I do want to give a shout out to one thing. The title song in this game is absolutely amazing, and I can't find out where to buy it. So if you know where I can buy this song, yeah, leave a message down below because I want this song. It's really
It reminded me very slightly of the song they used for the Suicide Squad trailer.
yeah. Look, it's kind of like folky.
Yeah, it's that sort of Irish female voice thing going on.
Yeah,
Kind of like, yeah, it's a beautiful song. I'll give you that.
yeah. It's super well suited to the
Yeah.
subject matter as well.
Yeah, so marks out of 10 for me. It's going to have to be a 9 because this game is something that I really, really would promote to people and say, buy it. People are already throwing it out back into the second-hand market, so if you want to pick it up, you can. quite easily, and over the coming days, weeks, months and years, it's going to come down in price because people would have played it. So get your hands on it if you haven't already, and enjoy it if you've got a PS4. If you haven't got a PS4, you might want to think about getting one.
There is one thing to say about buying it second-hand. It does come with an extra episode as part of the DLC. I haven't played it yet because the DLC slip didn't actually tell you what it was. You're just like, there's a code, it says nothing. But I downloaded it, I haven't played it yet. But obviously if you buy it second-hand, you might not have that code available to you. So just bear that in mind as well. But my overall impression of the game was fantastic. It's, for me, again, same as Snare, it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
9!
But I will get a personal bugbear in having games like this, games with such fantastic graphic fidelity. Give us a PC port so we can have a decent frame rate.
Just let go.
60!
Look,
No.
it's a game that you just have to just play. It doesn't matter what.
This was
It's a
always,
story-driven game, Lee.
this is always my problem with Quantic Dream as well. It's always been a case of like, wow, you've done that on a PS3 stroke PS4. That's fantastic. What could you have done on a PC? That makes what are we missing out on? Please do something like that for the PC.
Whatever. He's never going to be happy about it.
9 out of 10. That's pretty freaking happy, you ask me.
I mean, even the stuff on the back. Normally, I suppose it's too early to actually have like 5 stars and stuff written on it, but it is a game that you will really, really enjoy. So, to be honest, there is nothing left for us to say because we've said how great it is many times. Go out and get it. Simple as that.
I'll go along with that. Go out and get it.
So that's our review of Until Dawn. So guys, thank you very much for watching the review, and hopefully we can get you to comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, like it, share it with your friends, share it with your family, make everyone know how awesome we are, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy,
Catch
guys.
you later. Bye. I have 14% complete.
Yeah, I've got about 6% complete, I think.
It's huge.
It's huge, but unlike Metal Gears, where I'm not getting any positive reinforcements as well. So instead of like in the previous games where you had a gun that delivered electricity to things, you now need to attach a line to it from the Batmobile and then rev your engine. And that's just like, okay, so now I need to work out how to get this bloody great Batmobile up onto this little ledge over here by very